Okay, the Zephyr. The Zephyr is a wheelchair that basically comes in at 14.5 pounds. This is probably one of the lightest weight wheelchairs on the market. Incidentally, it's probably not an ideal first-time chair for anybody. Anybody that's going to get into a Zephyr, the questions you may want to ask them are, what would you change about the current chair you're sitting in? And ultimately, you'd want to hear nothing. Therefore, you can take those dimensions that are on their current chair and transfer it onto an actual Zephyr wheelchair order form. That way we can reproduce the current fit that they have into a way lighter frame. So involved in this one is a little more. So I'm probably going to go over quite a few of the actual details that are happening to this chair. First and foremost, the thing to know about the Zephyr, there is no adjustability. Once we actually make this frame off the actual order form that you guys submit, that frame is going to be what's been requested. There is no adjustment on the rear seat height, and there is no adjustment on the front seat height. It is going to be welded into an actual fixed frame. As I kind of spin this around, you guys can kind of see the way the axle tube is mounted to the actual top of the frame. There is no adjustment factor in here whatsoever. By the rear of the frame being fixed, it also forces us to fix the actual front end of the frame. On any of our other adjustable chairs, you would have seen the caster housings where they would have been able to be adjusted back into a 90-degree position. Well, these are welded into that 90-degree position. So when ordering a Zephyr, what needs to be determined is going to be your front seat height. Your front seat height, your rear seat height, center of gravity, type of rear wheel you're going to use in the back as far as the actual height goes, along with the actual front caster. All these things need to be determined. There really is no changing to go back, because what ends up happening, if you get somebody that's going to change the component in the back, such as the rear wheel from a 25 down to a 24, it's now going to throw the front of this frame off. And if these casters aren't aligned into that 90-degree position right there, the chair is not going to perform the way the actual patient was, the way it was meant to be, intended for the actual patient. Now the front seat height and the rear seat height have to be determined on this frame. For instance, we've taken the measurement right here, which will go from the ground to the top of the seat sling at 16 inches. In the front, I will take this measurement from the ground to the top of this seat sling, and that takes me to 19 inches. This right here indicates that I actually have a 3-inch bucket, 19 to 16 right here in the back. Very important, because that's what determines the rest of this chair and the direction we're going to go with it. The other things that basically are very important about this type of chair is actually going to be the center of gravity adjustability. There is no actual adjustment in this, so what needs to be happened is we need to duplicate exactly what the patient is currently comfortable with. So if we need to take that actual dimension, and it'll always be from where the backrest meets the actual frame right in here, you'll basically do a horizontal measurement to the top of the center of the axle pin. That is going to give us your center of gravity. It's broken down real well on the order form. So once again, from the backrest where it meets the actual frame, horizontal to right of the center of the axle receiver. That will give you your center of gravity. That's what will be reproduced, and that'll be fixed. You may have a slight of adjustment of a little under 1/4 of an inch, a little over 1/8 of an inch to feather that in. Other than that, it's pretty much going to be set. For somebody that wants the lightest unit possible, to go with the actual fixed footrest is the way to go. The way that actually gets measured, this is very important. You would take the measurement from the seat sling to the front of the footrest. Let me demonstrate this for you real fast here. It's very important to the front of the footrest that it would go to this actual front of the seat sling. And right here, I have a measurement of 16 inches. It's important because if you go to the back of it, it's going to change the actual dimension to 15 inches. So, as requested on the order form, very important, from the front of the seat sling that the patient currently has to the front of their footrest. That's what's going to determine that. Because if this is off and it goes from here, this footrest is not going to end up where the patient originally wanted it. Very important to know that. Inside foot clearance, something very important on this too. Because this chair is going to be made the way you're actually requesting it, we would ask for this dimension. Very important that it would come through. This one being measured out right here, right above the footrest at 9 inches. So if you can kind of see, that's the way we determine this. You kind of notice this is always going to be in somewhat. But that's not saying you can't order an actual frame that's going to be 15 inches up here and then you want the 15-inch inside foot clearance. Absolutely doable too. So this chair is probably one of the only chairs I can tell you that you can sculpt to do exactly what you want it to do. Something else that I've actually done on this actual frame too is I've taken the actual frame and extended it out just a slight bit. And the reason why, I wanted to create a front angle on this chair that looked pretty cool and pretty straight. Normally, if you don't indicate it, we would automatically start the actual bend right where this actual seat sling ends. So ultimately, this being 15 inches in depth, we would have normally taken this actual depth right here and started this bend to that front of the actual footrest right there. So to kind of give you a visual, that would have changed the front angle to go into that actual angle just like that. What you can do is basically request beyond the seat sling how many inches you would want the bend to start. For instance, on this particular one, I did 3 inches beyond the actual seat sling. So if you needed to write that down, you basically start the bend 3 inches past the seat sling. In other words, 18 inches is where we would start the bend. That's how it normally gets communicated. So if you want any kind of spacing here, very important that you indicate it. If not, to reiterate, it's going to start, the bend will start immediately after the seat sling and go basically to the front of the chair. One of the most crucial measurements on the actual Zephyr is going to be the diagonal measurement. This is what determines the length of the frame. Now that measurement's going to be taken from here where this backrest meets the frame, and you're going to do a diagonal to the front of the footrest of their existing wheelchair. That's what's going to let us know that we're duplicating this exactly. So once again, you'll be taking it from this point right in here to the actual front of the footrest, and that's what will determine the actual diagonal measurement. Very important, once again, to the front of the footrest, not the back, not the side, but to the very front of the bar of the current frame. That's what determines the diagonal measurement. The other key thing, as I've said, I'll reiterate one more time, is the center of gravity. Center of gravity is so crucial because this is welded into position with this rear axle tube back here. So by you taking this actual dimension from here, dropping it down vertically from here, where this point meets, that will be your center of gravity. That's what's going to determine this balance point. No adjustment on that, folks. So we got to be pretty dang close on that thing. One other feature about this actual chair that I like to do quite a bit is going to be the tapering of the frame. On this particular chair, because we start out at a minimum of 12 inches wide and I can go up to 18 inches wide. As far as my depth goes, I can start it out as narrow as 12 and I can even take it up to 18 on a longer frame. But the cool thing about this actual chair, and we do this quite often, is the actual tapering of the frame. We can basically start out our seat width at 15 inches in the back and taper it all the way up to maybe 12 inches up in the front. So we can come up with a narrow V like that. For some people, quite frankly, on women, they absolutely love that. It kind of accentuates their curves, kind of tucks somebody in there just a little bit tighter. It really just makes them one with the chair. It's just a great fit. So that's something that can be done on the Zephyr and uniquely only on the Zephyr. So for somebody that's ready to get into one of these chairs right here, they've got to be pretty dang sure about what they want. There really shouldn't be any question of their mind the way they want to sit, the way they want the components to be on there as far as your rear wheels, your front casters, and what have you. So please make sure you've got somebody in there that's going to be a candidate that's going to answer all these questions correctly. That's it.